In a world torn apart by divisions, where people are separated by nationality, race, religion, politics, and countless other lines, there stands a voice that transcends all boundaries, a voice that speaks across centuries, cultures, and faiths. That voice is Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi, the 13th-century Persian poet, mystic, and Sufi philosopher whose words continue to move hearts more than 700 years after his passing. Rumi is not just a poet of Islam, nor simply a mystic of the East. He is a universal teacher of love, a voice of unity, and a beacon of divine wisdom whose poetry has become one of the most widely read and celebrated in the world today. But who was Rumi, really? Was he simply a poet who wrote verses of romance? Was he only a mystic who disappeared into divine ecstasy? Or was he a thinker, a philosopher, and a teacher who discovered something profound about the human soul? To understand Rumi is to step into the depths of both poetry and philosophy, into a world where love becomes the bridge between humanity and God, and where every pain, every joy, and every longing is a path to truth. Rumi was born in 1207 in Balkh, a city that was then part of the Persian Empire and today lies within modern Afghanistan. He lived during a turbulent period of history, a time when the Mongol invasions threatened the entire Islamic world, destroying cities, burning libraries, and scattering communities. His family, sensing the danger, fled westward and eventually settled in Konya, a city in present-day Turkey, which was then part of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum. It is from that land that Rumi's name became known, Rumi, meaning from the land of Rum. From an early age, Rumi was trained in the classical Islamic sciences. His father, Baha al-Din Walad, was a respected theologian and jurist, and under his guidance, young Rumi mastered Quranic interpretation, Islamic law, and Arabic literature. He was, by every measure, a scholar, destined to become a jurist, a preacher, and a teacher. But life had something else in store for him, something that would take him from the rigid halls of scholarship into the burning fire of love and mysticism. That turning point came when Rumi met Shams of Tabriz, a wandering dervish, a mystic whose very presence unsettled conventional scholars. Shams was no ordinary teacher, he was a flame that burned away the illusions of worldly knowledge. He spoke of direct experience with the divine, of love as the true path to God, of a way of knowing that transcended books and arguments. When Rumi met Shams, it was as though a dormant fire was lit within him. Their companionship was so deep, so intense, that it shocked Rumi's followers and students. Here was a learned jurist and scholar abandoning the podium of law to sit in the company of a mystic, singing, dancing, and entering states of spiritual ecstasy. It was through Shams that Rumi discovered the path of love, not love in the ordinary, romantic sense, but a love that dissolves the self and opens the heart to the infinite. Rumi's encounter with Shams became the catalyst for his transformation. He turned from a preacher of law into a poet of the soul. His words began to flow like a river, uncontainable, bursting with metaphors of union, separation, longing, fire, and intoxication. When Shams suddenly disappeared, whether through murder, exile, or divine disappearance remains a mystery, Rumi's grief poured forth into thousands of verses of poetry. Out of loss came creation, and out of longing came timeless beauty. Rumi's poetry is vast, spanning tens of thousands of lines. His most famous work, the Masnavi, often called the spiritual Masnavi, is considered a Quran in Persian, a 6-volume treasure trove of stories, parables, and reflections on God, humanity, and the nature of existence. Alongside it, his Divan-i-Shams is a collection of ecstatic poems written in honor of his beloved friend and spiritual companion, Shams of Tabriz. But what makes Rumi's words so powerful, so enduring, that even today they are quoted at weddings, in spiritual gatherings, in books on psychology, and even on social media? The answer lies in the universality of his message. Rumi speaks in a language of love that transcends dogma, a language that dissolves the walls between religions and cultures. He once said, "I am not Christian, nor Jew, nor Muslim, nor Hindu, nor Buddhist. I am not of the East, nor of the West. I am the soul of love." In these words, he reflects a truth that belongs to all humanity, that beyond the labels we cling to, we are souls longing for the divine, yearning for connection, for wholeness. Rumi teaches that love is not just an emotion, it is the very essence of existence. He sees the entire universe as being born of love and moving toward love. He writes, "The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. This is not just poetry, it is philosophy." Rumi is saying that love is the underlying fabric of reality, that all separations are illusions, and that the divine is not somewhere out there but within us, waiting to be discovered. His philosophy is also deeply tied to suffering and longing. For Rumi, pain is not something to escape, it is something to embrace, because it cracks open the heart and allows love to pour in. He writes, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." In other words, our struggles, our griefs, and our heartbreaks are not meaningless, they are doorways to transformation. This teaching resonates powerfully today, in a world where people seek comfort, healing, and purpose amidst chaos. Rumi reminds us that even in suffering, there is beauty, and in every loss, there is a hidden gift. But Rumi was not only a poet of individual transformation, he was also a thinker who reflected on community, society, and spirituality as a collective journey. His poetry often uses metaphors of the reed flute, which cries because it has been cut from the reed bed. This symbolizes the human soul's separation from its source, from God. Just as the reed flute makes music only when it is hollowed out, so too the human being becomes an instrument of divine love only when the ego is emptied. This theme of selflessness, of dissolving the ego into the greater whole, is central to his philosophy. In the Sufi tradition, Rumi also popularized the practice of sama, the whirling dance of the Dervishes. This spinning, circular movement symbolizes the planets revolving around the sun and the soul revolving around God. It is not a mere dance but a meditation, a physical expression of surrender and unity. Through dance, through poetry, through music, Rumi turned life into a celebration of divine love. Centuries later, Rumi's influence spread far beyond the Islamic world. His works were translated into many languages, and in the modern era, he became one of the best-selling poets in the West. Figures as diverse as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Goethe, and modern spiritual teachers have drawn inspiration from him. Psychologists have quoted his verses to heal patients. Activists have used his words to inspire movements of peace. Lovers have found comfort in his poetry. Rumi is not confined to a single tradition, he belongs to all of humanity. Why does Rumi remain so relevant today? Because he addresses the deepest hunger of the human soul, the hunger for meaning, for love, for connection. In a world of materialism, where technology often isolates us, where conflict divides us, and where despair grows silently in hearts, Rumi calls us back to the essence. He whispers, "Don't get lost in your pain, know that one day your pain will become your cure. Don't get lost in your loneliness, you are never alone." These are not just pretty words. They are medicine for a broken world. To understand Rumi is to understand that philosophy need not always be cold, rational, or purely logical. Philosophy can also be poetry. It can be music. It can be love expressed in metaphors of birds, gardens, wine, and fire. Rumi's philosophy does not lecture, it sings. It does not argue, it embraces. It does not divide, it unites. That is why Rumi is not only remembered as a poet but revered as a saint, a guide, and a teacher of the soul. As we reflect on Rumi's life and words, we realize that his philosophy offers us three timeless lessons. First, that love is the path to God, the highest form of knowledge and the essence of all existence. Second, that suffering is not a curse but a gift that transforms and awakens the soul. And third, that the ego, the illusion of separateness, must be dissolved in order for us to experience true unity. Imagine if these lessons were applied today, not only in personal lives but in global affairs. What would happen if love, rather than greed or fear, became the guiding principle of nations? What would happen if suffering was met with compassion rather than avoidance? What would happen if humanity recognized its unity rather than clinging to divisions? Rumi's voice echoes as an invitation, a call to awaken, to return to love, to remember the essence of who we are. Rumi once wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you've never heard of them before. Don't be afraid of sadness, for it prepares you for joy. Don't be afraid of endings, for they open the way to beginnings." These words could be spoken today to anyone struggling with change, loss, or uncertainty. They remind us that life itself is a dance of opposites, joy and sorrow, union and separation, life and death. But within that dance lies a hidden harmony, a deeper wisdom. And perhaps that is the true gift of Rumi. He did not merely write poetry, he offered a way of seeing, a way of living, a way of being. He showed that every breath can be a prayer, every step a dance, every sorrow a doorway, and every love a reflection of the divine. He showed that wisdom need not be distant or abstract but can be as intimate as the beating of one's own heart. As his words continue to echo across centuries, they invite us into a space beyond dogma, beyond division, beyond fear. They invite us into the space of love. Rumi once wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That field is the place of love, of divine wisdom, of unity. And it is a field that humanity desperately needs to rediscover. So, when we ask who Rumi was, the answer is more than a poet, more than a mystic, more than a philosopher. Rumi was a mirror, reflecting back to us our own souls, reminding us of what we have forgotten, and pointing us back to the source of all love. His poetry is not about him, it is about us. It is about God, about humanity, about the eternal dance of love and longing that makes life worth living. 7 centuries may have passed, but Rumi's voice has not faded. If anything, it has grown louder, stronger, more urgent. For in his words lies the truth that can heal divisions, comfort the lonely, inspire the broken, and awaken the seekers. Rumi's wisdom is not buried in the past, it is alive, breathing, waiting for us to listen. And so, we end with his own words, which capture the essence of his philosophy: let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Rumi's call is simple, yet profound. Follow love. Live love. Become love. For in love, you will find God, you will find wisdom, and you will find yourself.